Hey, I'm Stalnaker here at the Ice House with Hub Culture here in Davos 2020. We're having a great discussion on something we call the 1.5 degree imperative, which is basically this target that was set out sort of globally by the UNFCCC about the level of temperature change or climate change that can sort of be deemed survivable or acceptable in the world that we live in. But the reality is that we're actually on target for a much higher increase in global temperature rise over the next years and decades. And we have to change course. We have to change the trajectory from a linear growth in global temperature, mean temperature, to something else. But the problem is that we're right now on target for a much higher than 1.5 degree temperature rise, and the consequences from that could be very severe to even catastrophic. And part of the reason is that after 1.5 degrees, the feedback loops and the impacts become unpredictable. Arctic ice melts, the jet stream moves, forests burn, lots of things happen that actually result in unpredictable consequences. So we spent the earlier sessions, which you can look for here on Facebook and on hublive.tv, talking about the issue, the reality of the situation. Is there a solution? Can we, as a planet, hit this 1.5 degree target, which we need to do by 2030? And then if we're going to do it, and it's possible, how do we do it? So now we're going to move into how we do it, and the focus is going to be on technology. So joining me now is Daniela Barbosa from Hyperledger. If you don't know what Hyperledger is, it's super cool. But it's really about like technology and blockchain. You might know what blockchains are. They're kind of decentralized databases that allow us to verify things transparently. And these sorts of technologies actually lay a foundation that's going to allow us to build new solutions for climate. And that's the only way we're going to get off of the linear trajectory towards disaster to some sort of moonshot or new sort of situation that's going to solve this issue and keep us under 1.5 degrees. So hi Daniela, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us in our conversation, and thanks for the group that's here. Let's talk for a second about Hyperledger so people understand what is a blockchain and what is a Hyperledger. And then how are you guys applying that to help the planet hit this target?
Absolutely. Well, let's actually explain what Hyperledger is within the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation over the last 20 years has been developing open source projects, primarily in enterprise technology. The Linux kernel, obviously being the one most known.
And so Linux is, for many of us who don't know, that's like what most of the modern world runs on in terms of computer basic stuff.
Correct. And it's an open source community. All code is developed by open source contributors. Obviously many companies are involved in that as well. Over the last 20 years, the Linux Foundation has really built an infrastructure to run these open source projects. Hyperledger is one of about 150 projects within the Linux Foundation today. There are other projects, including cloud native computing, which is Kubernetes, where a lot of the cloud infrastructure is run, AGL, automotive grade Linux, the new Corollas and new Subarus all run with automotive grade Linux in their operating systems. So it's really about creating a place from an open source governance perspective that the developers can come in and share the work that they've done with each other.
So it's cool. So it's, this fits our week here at Hub, which is about co-creating the future society. That's our sort of overarching theme. And what you guys are doing is like providing the infrastructure for everybody to build that, it sounds like.
Exactly. And Hyperledger specifically is focused on enterprise blockchain. So the project itself just celebrated its 4th year. So a baby in technology's fronts.
And I feel like Hyperledger's been around longer than 4 years. Is it really only 4?
Well, one of the projects, Hyperledger Fabric, which was the initial contribution by IBM, was around before then. When they open sourced it, they contributed it to the Hyperledger, to the Linux Foundation. So that was probably 5-6 years, so around the same time that we were talking about before that it's been out there. Today we have 14 different projects within the Hyperledger greenhouse, we call it. And it's really a place for different DLTs, distributed ledger platforms, tools and libraries to be able to incubate the work that they're doing, build these open source communities, these developers and these companies coming together, and really a place for global companies, individuals, nonprofits. We work with a lot of government agencies, anything from the World Bank to UNWF, really about helping build the use cases for DLTs, for distributed ledger technologies. We're very excited, obviously, to be here at Davos this week. We've been attending Davos for the last few years, have a lot of sessions. And also this week, we will be launching, hence my interest in coming to the session today, a climate action special interest group as well.
Okay, so, and that actually gets us into the meat of this conversation, which is really about solutions for climate and how technology is going to deliver those solutions. So what is the new initiative? If you could talk a little bit about it.
Sure, so the climate action, it's a climate action and accounting special interest group. We currently have about 11 different interest groups, sector-related, supply chain, healthcare, and also one on social impact, which was doing some climate work as well. The community got together, and this was led by the Yale Open Innovation Lab, the Climate Change Coalition, the Climate Ledger Initiative, and the MIT Digital Currency Initiative. And they came to Hyperledger and said, we are doing work using Hyperledger technologies. We would like to do it in the open network, with open source, and contribute it back. Everything that we do is licensed in Apache 2.0 to really build systems that can be reused and are open and can be audited, can be seen from an open source perspective on the code.
What's an example of one of those types of systems?
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of, if you go to our wiki.hyperledger.org and under special interest groups, you'll find this. And once again, we're just launching on Wednesday officially, but there's a lot of work already that's been done. One of the things that they're working is for climate accounting. So building systems that would be open and available for anyone to reuse from a climate accounting perspective.
And that's really huge for actually hitting this target, because if we don't know how much carbon we're spending, we don't really know how quickly or slowly we're going to hit that target. So this is a really important foundational layer of trying to actually control ourselves in terms of hitting this target.
Correct, correct. And once, because using distributed ledger technology, obviously from a transparency perspective, right, everyone can see the transactions that have been taken. But it's really important to be able to do this with open source code so that anyone can take a look at it, anyone can contribute to it, anyone can participate to it, because this is something that can't be done by one company or just one initiative or even one social impact organization. It really needs to have collaboration. And we hope that by giving us space to do that work, that it'll be done faster, which we need to do, and more transparency so people can have faith in it.
Let's talk about the future. We've all been here talking about some of the issues that we're facing and some of these consequences. Do you have any idea for, you're deep in the Hyperledger community and you understand the tech. There must be some things that haven't been built yet that Hyperledger could be useful as a solution for. So do you have any thoughts about something or ideas that if you're a developer out there or a company that wants to get interested in Hyperledger and you're working toward this target, what are some things that you could use Hyperledger for to engineer potential non-existing solutions?
Right. In Hyperledger, there's multiple projects, so and there's 6 different DLT platforms to choose from. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at, not to go deep into the technology today. But we are seeing use cases, obviously, from a circular economy perspective, where people are building solutions using the Hyperledger technology to build circular economies, whether it is through mining, for example. There's a couple of instances in Africa with a company called Circular that is doing some very interesting mining supply chain traceability. And we're seeing a lot of that. We're also seeing a lot of supply chain certainly is one from a transparency perspective that's important to see. And ultimately, really about taking assets, right, whether they're mining assets or money-wise assets, and be able to track that. We're seeing a lot of use cases in the payments industry. And I know, Stan, you have some experience in that as well.
Yeah, well, I've had this idea for quite a while now. I'm actually, right after Davos, I'm heading to the Amazon for 2 weeks. with indigenous tribes. It's going to be a very interesting trip. But one of the reasons I'm going down there is I've had this idea that, especially with blockchain, one of the great use cases is identity. We learned that with Hub Culture and with Venn and with Hub ID. So all of our members in our community have a digital identity. And we've pushed that digital identity beyond the idea of a person to include, companies or entities, and then also objects. And the last time I was in the Amazon, I had this idea, you have all this, idea of a need for work in indigenous and local communities in the Amazon. And unfortunately, the only monetary systems right now are around extraction. So it's logging and it's mining and it's all these things that are terrible. And everyone around the world is like, no, we shouldn't be doing that. But then there's no economic model for the people who live in the Amazon to actually have work that's designed to be protecting it. So if we could build an economic model, and this is something we're getting into tomorrow at the Tech Lodge, if we could build an economic model for saving the Amazon that uses the people of the Amazon to be the paid protectors, we then have a viable economic competitor to logging and mining. And so this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. And I think that blockchain and something like Hyperledger could play a role in that. And one of the things, tell me if this is even possible, maybe not tomorrow, but imagine if every tree had an identity. And you had people tagging those trees, so they have a job to tag and censor and provide a physical identity to a tree. And then that tree would then have a digital identity on a blockchain or on the internet. And then somebody could adopt that tree, right? And they could pay some money for that thing. But it's not just hey, save a tree. It's I don't know the tree. It's there's a direct digital identity related to that thing that goes back, and then a funding loop that then provides work for the people to manage those things. Is that possible?
It is. I mean, without dropping lots of buzzwords, right? When you look at IoT and different types of devices and how are implemented using blockchain as well. We're seeing a lot of work being done from a consumer or a farmer or even someone that builds a piece of furniture to the consumer. And the consumer is really driving the demand for understanding who makes their products, where are their products coming from, are they farmed sustainably, are they built using sustainable wood, for example, and all that is being tracked. Accenture this week is going to be doing some work and some presentations specifically on some use cases that they've built and are really about understanding where your products come from so that you can make an informed decision. And it's really driven by individuals, right? I mean, it's driven by my 10-year-old daughter, who's very jealous that I'm here. She thinks I'm going to meet Greta, so hi Greta.
We had Greta here last year.
She'll be around this year as well. And I think that, the consumers, my daughter and people of her generation, even younger generation, are going to demand to understand where the products that they're buying are coming from, down to where it is produced, right? And I think that's important. So the answer is yes, you can do that with DLT, with distributed ledger technology and blockchain, not by itself, right? You need IoT, you need other types of infrastructure that can fashion.
Yeah, and you also need, a community in a way, because this takes it out of the world of tech and into the world of people, which, it's half the trouble with this stuff is it's great in the lab or, when you're writing code, but actually getting somebody to walk out and do it and physically have the financial means to do it is tough.
Well, I always use diamonds, because diamonds are girl's best friend as an example. And Everledger, one of Hyperledger community members, has built over the last 5 years, it's even more so, one of the first implementations of Hyperledger Fabric used to track diamonds from mine to consumer. And that was definitely, with the Kimberley process, it was a process that was already in place, very old-fashioned, faxes to one another, and they put that on blockchain services to eliminate kind of that distrust, right? Because once you have these transactions on the blockchain, you have a transparency that those happen. And today, even in China, where diamonds, the Western culture of diamonds is becoming more and more big, there's 5,000 different retailers that can now check the provenance of these diamonds on purchase, on demand by consumers. And that's what consumers are demanding, like I said.
So they can tell you where the diamond came from, when it was mined, how it came out. So if we can do it with diamonds, we can do it with trees.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daniela. That's a solution. That's a solution. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and please go to hyperledger.org, look up the wiki, and join the fight for all of us.
And if you're a coder, get in there on GitHub and get in that stuff.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Daniela. Okay, we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back to a really exciting conversation about European technology and a new organization called JEDI. And we're going to look at what's going to go on there in terms of how they're going to help us get to this goal of 1.5 degrees. We'll be right back.